Hello, friends. Welcome to the Practicing Wholeness podcast. My name is Brooke Snow. Excited to welcome you here today for a creation circle. This is something I hold live once a month for my community. It invites us to explore how we can practice wholeness with the polarities that exist in our world. Oftentimes, polarity is the source of why we feel so disconnected inside or even divided. We can tend to have a clinging and an aversion to one side or the other of a polarity. Sometimes we have judgment towards one side of a polarity, and wholeness is actually the ability for us to be able to find the gift that exists in each side and hold both. Our world is a divided place, so much in society, in politics, in beliefs, in lots of judgment can exist. And practicing wholeness invites us to live from a heart-centered place that has the ability to hold contraries and opposites of sides of a belief, sides of a perspective. And today's topic that we're going to explore is the polarity of unconditional love and conditional love. So I'm excited to dive into this with you today. I'm going to be sharing a recording of the Zoom call that I did with my community. If you would like to attend one of these events in the future and be present for the live experience, just check out my website at brookesnow.com/events. If you're part of the email mailing list, you'll be notified of that, or you can keep an eye on that webpage for all future events as well. One of the benefits of attending live is the opportunity at the end to be in live discussion with one another and an opportunity for open coaching if that is of interest. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic and begin. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about wholeness today. And, I've had a different view of wholeness my whole life, and this is my new favorite in the sense that there's nothing that is excluded in wholeness. If you're looking at a pie, that means every piece of the pie gets to be there for a whole pie. And so as we go along here, we're going to be talking, as I said, about polarity. And I want to just explain really quickly my framework that I use for wholeness in relationship to the polarities in life. And we have many polarities. This world is full of them. And once you understand this framework, it can be really exciting to see how you can bring polarities into wholeness. So I want to start first with this amazing quote from Aristotle. And he says, "Any virtue in excess or deficiency becomes a vice." And this is really key to our understanding of wholeness because anything can get out of balance. You can have too much of something, so excess, and you can have not enough. You can have a deficiency. And what we are aiming for here is a beautiful balance in any type of virtue that we come across. And the tendency in our humanness is that we can tend to cling to one polarity over another. Clinging is when we hold to one side so tightly. We have decided in our black and white thinking that this side is the good side, this side is the right side. And then our aversion shows up with our judgment towards the other side, which is this is the wrong side. This is the bad side. So our goal here is to actually see if we can bring both of these sides together. When we cling to one side, we create a shadow. When we have aversion to another side, we create a shadow. This means that we're hanging out in the extreme side of polarity. We have come over to one side and we have clung to it at the exclusion of the other, and we will create a shadow when we do that. There is a gift to be found in each side of a polarity. And this is where some really great healing and expansion can happen in our own minds and hearts as we begin to see the gift that each side offers. We can start to see what the shadow looks like, and we can begin to move more towards the center, bringing the goodness that each polarity offers. And as we move towards the center, that is where we're able to be in wholeness. And as you can see from This visual I have here, I like to think of wholeness as being heart-centered. Our mind is very dualistic. It's natural for the mind to see in polarity, to see the black and white, to have judgment, and to divide between the sides of the polarities. We have a right hemisphere of our brain, we have a left hemisphere of our brain, and it's naturally going to see the division that exists. When we can drop into our heart, however, the heart is a place of wholeness. The organ of the heart isn't divided in the same way as like the mind is divided in that way. The heart is the place in which we can hold both. We can hold opposites. We can hold two things to be true. And that's our aim for practicing wholeness. So, as I explained, the polarity we're going to look into today is the polarity of unconditional love and conditional love. And I would love to just like pause for just a moment and invite you to tune in. Just tuning in, maybe it's to your own mind or maybe it's to your body. I get a lot of information from my body when I ask this question, but like asking the question of, is there one of these two that I feel more drawn towards, or I feel more maybe aversion to? Which one do just naturally do you feel more drawn to? Or maybe it's both. Unconditional love, conditional love, just noticing what comes up for you. And I know for me, for much of my life, I've had a lot of judgment on conditional love. I have even taught lessons against conditional love. I have really seen it as something that is harmful, undesirable. And we're going to look into how that really can show up. It can be that way. And maybe you've even had that same experience with unconditional love. Just like you to notice and look at your own history, look at like where that shows up for you now. What do you feel pulled towards if there is a pull? What do you feel aversion to if there's any aversion? So what we're going to do first, I want to share what I have observed from Mother Nature in her teaching about this polarity. Like I say, the world is full of polarity. Everywhere you look, you're going to find a polarity that exists. It is the way the universe operates, up and down, hot and cold, light and dark, in and out, and onward and onward and onward, we're going to find these polarities. I like to look to Mother Nature to see, where does unconditional love show up in Mother Nature? Perhaps you're familiar with the phrase or the scripture, the sun shines on the just and the unjust. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. We can see in Mother Nature that there is this beautiful quality of unconditional love. It does not matter where you live in the world, what country you're in, what religion you belong to, what you believe, what group of people you are a part of, your actions, your behaviors, anything like that does not sway whether the sun shines, whether the rain falls, whether things grow or they don't grow. Like, nature shows us this unconditionally loving quality. Likewise, to bring this more home to a personal experience, I can go out into Mother Nature and I can be so mad. Maybe I left a heated moment at home and I just need some space, and I go outside and she welcomes me. She's not judging at all my state of being, my behavior, anything of that sort. I am welcomed. Or I could show up in total peacefulness, heart full of gratitude, and she welcomes me. There is this unconditional, loving quality of Mother Nature. Likewise, is there any way that conditional love shows up in nature? Do we see that anywhere? Just want you to think about that for a moment. We actually see conditional love in nature all over the place. For example, I live in northern Utah. I cannot grow a palm tree in northern Utah. It just will not survive in these harsh, cold climates. But if I go down to southern Utah, all of a sudden the conditions have changed. The climate is different, the elevation is different. Palm trees can grow in southern Utah, they can't grow in northern Utah. The conditions really matter. And we see this all over the world in the different climates, the different zones, the places things thrive in certain conditions, and they wither in other conditions. Sometimes it's like totally even impossible for something to grow in another condition. And so we can see in nature that both the presence of unconditional love is present, and then the presence of conditions also become very apparent as well. And one thing that I want to offer here as we relate this back to our own human experience, I like to think of the unconditional quality of love in our life, something like the sun that is fixed. It is unchanging. It is always present, always shining. It is the essence of gravity in our universe that holds everything together. I spiritually like to personalize that to our own individual worth. Our worth is like the sun. It is always there. It is always shining. It is unconditional. It is never something that needs to be earned or deserved. It is just there, always there. And as we relate the conditional side of love back to our own life and what we learn from nature, we all have our own conditions for growth. We personally have conditions that will help us to be able to thrive, not just survive. We're aiming for thriving here. There are conditions that we personally need to thrive. And I would add one more layer to that, and that is safety. The conditions that we personally need to feel safe and to thrive. That is conditional. And we've all experienced conditions where we don't feel safe and we don't feel like we can thrive. We can't grow and be our best, brightest, luminous self. So that becomes a large task of life, is to be able to notice these two polarities and to not confuse them. When we mix this up and we take our worth and we put it into the conditional side, this brings distortion to our life. And when we take conditions that exist that do not contribute to our safety and do not contribute to our thriving, and we try to make that unconditional, like it shouldn't be a thing, that I should just be able to grow and flourish and thrive and feel safe regardless of what circumstances I am in, that too is when we start to have a little bit of distortion. So if we can keep very clear on our worth is always unconditional, and the conditions that we need to thrive, how to thrive and feel safe and vibrant and all of that is something that is conditional in our life. And I just want to name right now that there can be this tendency for us to feel like, well, I need to have the conditions be perfect. I just need perfect conditions and then I'll be okay. And that's not necessarily what I'm trying to get at all. I know there are conditions that we can control and there are conditions that we cannot control. You'll notice too, as far as Mother Nature goes, as far as elements that are out of our control, that sometimes it's stormy, sometimes things happen, sometimes there's challenge that comes in, there's a big storm, there's a natural disaster, there's a wildfire, a flood, a hurricane, an earthquake, all of those things. And we have the same in our life. Metaphorically, we too have things that disrupt things. That's part of our life experience. We don't need perfection to be able to grow. What my invitation is to notice in your own life, what are my conditions right now? And are they contributing to my sense of safety and my ability to thrive? And if they're not, is it something in my control that I can change and that I can influence? This is where healthy boundaries really comes into play. So let's see if we can put this into practice. We're going to do a little exploration on both sides of this polarity, looking at both the gift, the healthy side, and also the shadow. So let's start with unconditional love. The gift that it offers us, the healthy version of unconditional love, like I mentioned, is where your inherent worth and your radical belonging exist. And the qualities that you're going to find here is inherent dignity, worth that cannot be earned or lost, love for being, not performance. Like performance is when we're going to get into the shadow side of earning and deserving, but the healthy version is just, I can just love being alive. We can have compassion for all the parts that exist within us. We withhold judgment. This is again bringing in the nature metaphor. It's like the sun shines on all. This is a quality of presence and also inclusion. This is our healthy side of unconditional love, the gift that it offers us to our life. Now let's take a look at what the shadow side of unconditional love looks like. This is when we get into distortion. When we're in the shadows, we just don't see clearly. We cannot discern clearly. So the shadow is going to show up like staying in harmful environments, confusing love with no boundaries, tolerating abuse, bypassing real needs that we have. Maybe it shows up like thoughts like, I should just love this no matter what. Maybe it's forcing ourselves to stay where we are withering. Maybe that's in a relationship or in a job or in circumstances that just are depleting us and not adding to our life. But this shadow side of unconditional love just is like, you should just stay, just keep, the boundaries don't matter. This is a lack of standards for growth, and it's using spirituality to deny reality. And this is where people can accidentally make conditions unconditional. And we just want to watch for this. We just want to be aware of how this might be showing up. So this is a look at both the healthy side, the gift of unconditional love, and then a look at the shadow side. Now let's go into the other polarity. We have conditional love. Let's first look at what the healthy version is. What is the gift that conditional love offers us? Remember, like when we're in the healthy version, we can see clearly. So this is discernment. We can see clearly. We have stewardship and right environment. And I don't use the word right as a moral rightness. I use this in terms of like an alignment. I have alignment with the correct environment that I need to be able to thrive. Conditional love on the healthy side looks like creating safety, both within yourself and for those around you. This looks like healthy boundaries. It's choosing nourishing relationships in your life. It is honoring your nervous system needs. It's recognizing what it is that supports your growth. It is changing environments if needed. It's protecting vitality and having wise standards. And I bring this back again to our nature metaphor. This is how a gardener loves the garden. When I garden, I choose the plants that are going to grow in northern Utah. I choose to put things in the place they need to go. It says when I go to the nursery whether something needs lots of sunlight or partial sunlight, or maybe it needs shade, or maybe it needs this. Like, the wise gardener knows the conditions that is needed and honors all of those conditions, protecting the vitality of what is planted and nurtured. So now let's get into the shadow side of conditional love. Shadow side is distorted, and it is making your worth dependent on conditions. Maybe this sounds like I'm only lovable if. So it's really getting into that thinking that worth is something to be earned and deserved. This is shadow side of conditional love. It's perfectionism. It's performance-based belonging. It's shame. This is where we feel like we have to earn approval. This is where we withhold love from ourselves. I don't deserve love right now. This is the shadow side of conditional love. It's conditional self-acceptance. I can't accept myself unless, or I can't love myself unless. Like, this is very getting into that territory of earning and deserving love and earning and deserving worth. This is extending worth only when others behave correctly. And I would also offer that that goes towards ourselves too. Only extending worth to ourselves when we feel like we have perfectly done things and our behavior too matches up with what we expect. This is where people make worth conditional. So, with that little overview of both the healthy side of each polarity and the shadow side of each polarity, let's just do a little personal quiz. We're going to check in and just notice where you feel like you are in your life right now. And I want to offer that there is no judgment at all for where you are. And we're going to root in, reminding ourselves that unconditional love, the gift that it offers, is that our worth is never something that is conditional. It is like that sun. It is always shining. There are very, very few things in this world that are actually unchanging and fixed. And the sun has been that constant source to the universe for who knows how long, much longer than we humans have been on this planet. And most other things in life are very impermanent and constantly changing. And yet that sun is unchanging, consistent, always there. So is our worth. So without any judgment, we're just going to assess where we are. So just noting, here's question number 1. When I am struggling, A, I assume something is wrong with me. B, I get curious about whether my conditions are supporting me. And we're just going to, when answering these questions, just do a generalized, like most of the time. Most of the time, do I do A or do I do B? Question number 2. In relationships, A, I stay longer than is healthy because love shouldn't have conditions. B, I allow love, but I also notice whether the environment is safe enough to thrive. Three, when I fail, A, my worth feels diminished. B, my worth remains intact, but I may need different support conditions. 4, when something in my life feels dry, depleted, or lifeless, A, I blame myself. B, I wonder what conditions are needed to change. And last, question number 5, My internal belief often sounds like A, I have to earn love, belonging, or goodness. Or B, my worth is fixed, but my environment does matter. So, with that little quick assessment, just noticing, where do you find yourself falling most right now? Do you have mostly A's, mostly B's? Do you have a little mix of both? We're just going to look at the results. If you've got mostly A's, you may be noticing some of the shadow side of conditional love showing up in your life. Or this could also be looked at as the shadow of undifferentiated, unconditional love showing up in your life. We can get into what that means later. So, this often looks like making your worth dependent on outcomes, assuming struggle means something is wrong with you, staying in conditions that no longer support your thriving, blaming yourself instead of getting curious about your environment, confusing endurance with love. And if you find that this is where you're hanging out a lot, this feels very like familiar territory to you, I want you to know that this is not a flaw. There is no judgment for this at all. This is most often, this is a survival strategy. This is the way that parts of ourselves have learned how to be in protection and to create a form of safety for yourself. So there's no judgment about that at all. If you have mostly B's in your answer, this is a really healthy balance of the polarity. And this means that you are probably practicing the ability to separate your worth from your performance. You are honoring your nervous system needs. Maybe you notice conditions that are not supportive, and so you change them so that you're able to grow again. You start to create the environments that allow for safety in your growth and use discernment in your life without bringing in shame. If you have a little bit of a mix of both A and B, I just want to normalize that this is where a lot of us are. And this is actually a really rich place to live for practicing wholeness in our life. Life is going to continue to offer up challenges, moments of growth for us. And so we get to play with these polarities that exist and see where we can find ways to travel more to the healthy side of the polarity. And this means that we need to have a little bit of awareness and to remember that our worth is inherent. When you've got a mix of both of these answers, it's likely that you do feel that your inherent worth is there in some areas. But maybe there are other parts of life that it ends up to be a little bit conditional. Maybe you have healthy conditions in some relationships, and then in others, it's a little bit unhealthy. Maybe you are over enduring. Maybe you're like staying too long in situations or relationships that are harmful, or you have some self-blame. And then in other areas, you're able to like move more quickly and create something that's more supportive for you. So this is a really rich place for being able to find growth. So with that being said, we're going to do some journaling. This is where our creation circle becomes really valuable. We've just taken in a lot of information, which is in our mind. And I want to bring this more into the heart. We're going to take this from the mind into the heart space, really trusting our own authentic true self to guide us into finding more wholeness in our own relationship with these two polarities. So the first question I invite you to just take a few moments with is, where in my life have I made my worth conditional? I'm going to just play a little bit of music, helping to invite some presence. being honest with where things are for us right now, without any judgment. Where in my life have I made my worth conditional? We're going to move to the next question here. Just wrapping up your thoughts on the first one. This is always something that you're welcome to come back to as well. Second question, where am I trying to practice unconditional love in conditions that are causing me to wither? What in my life currently lacks the conditions for thriving? That's another way to look at it. And our next final question here is a really good one. What conditions help me come alive? Thinking about like what environments help you feel safe, creative, open, feel like yourself. Also thinking about your nervous system. What does your nervous system need in order to grow? What helps you feel safe? And if it's hard to kind of even know the answer to this, maybe think about when you were younger, when you were a child, when you were growing up. What were those conditions like? Maybe other times of life. What helps you feel alive? A few more moments on this, knowing again, this is also something you can come back to and explore more later. And I'd love to wrap this whole teaching and introspection into a lovely experience. We're going to just do a short meditation together to help embody some of the wisdom that you may have received from your true self and your journaling, perhaps from these ideas or teachings in any way that if they've been supportive. And just bringing that experience from the mind into the heart with a little meditation. Just taking a moment to find whatever is comfortable for you. Just tuning into the breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Just continuing at your own pace, whatever that looks like for you. If it feels safe to do so, you can close your eyes. Just noticing your body as it breathes, expanding with each breath in, contracting with each breath out. And perhaps even just noticing the state of your own body right now. Just doing a little scan from the top of your head down all the way your arms and body, legs and feet. Just slowly moving your awareness and noticing any place you might be holding any tension. And if you find a place like that, What happens if you just relax that place, bringing the breath and your awareness to any place that feels tight, using that breath to create more space, to open just a little more. And perhaps as we have talked about the ever-presence of the sun in nature, the light that it offers, the life it brings to all living beings, all life on earth. Perhaps tuning in to how that light is also within you. Maybe with each of those breaths, just imagining that light, being able to travel, take up more space, to expand, to illuminate. Anything that has been in the shadow. Whether that's the shadow of conditional love, moments we have bought into the misunderstanding that we needed to earn or deserve our worth. Just bringing that light to any of those places, memories, beliefs. Just bringing that unconditional loving presence of the sun and the divinity that exists within you. That unconditional love and worth that is always present within you. Allowing that to illuminate the shadows. Maybe there's been shadows too that have existed on the unconditional side of love. A lack of boundaries. Pressing onward, thinking our own needs don't matter. Expecting ourselves to be able to grow or thrive, or we should be able to do more. We should be able to be happy, even though the conditions aren't in alignment for our own growth. Just bringing the light to these areas. There's no judgment for any time we have spent in the shadow. And really, the suffering that the shadow brings to our life, all it's asking is to be loved. The way we come into wholeness is to love the part of us that has been in shadow. Offering compassionate self-forgiveness. If it feels useful, you might consider this prompt. Just thinking about the judgments or misunderstandings that you have had in your own life about love. And maybe contemplate how you would answer these statements. I forgive myself for judging myself for being in the shadow. I forgive myself for judging and buying into the misunderstanding of what a healthy version of love is. The truth is. And what might be true for you? The truth is, I'm still learning. The truth is, contrast is my teacher. The truth is, I learn by experience. The truth is, when I know better, I can do better. The truth is, my worth is always unconditional. Perhaps in this moment as well, it might be worthwhile to bring into your imagination, imagining a plant in nature. Maybe it's a tree, a plant, a flower, anything that can symbolize or represent how you have felt in your own life right now. Whatever feels like it represents your own heart, your own spirit, whatever shape or form that takes. And maybe that plant has been a little withered. Maybe it has been in conditions that have been really hard for it to be able to grow. From the loving presence that is who you are, the divinity within you, I invite you to offer unconditional love to this part of you. Imagining that sun shining, always present, nothing you've needed to do to earn or deserve any of it. Offering this unconditional love. The rain, offering this unconditional love. And maybe you notice that the conditions need an upgrade. Can you imagine that for this plant that represents who you are? Can you imagine what those conditions can do to help it thrive? Symbolically, what does that look like? Maybe it's replanted somewhere else. Maybe some things get pruned. Maybe there's some new boundaries or conditions that allow you to be able to feel safe, to be able to thrive. What does that look like for you? Can you see it in your mind's eye, bringing that into your heart? Knowing you don't have to do anything to earn this or deserve this. Your worth, your lovability, who you are, it is fixed. It is unchanging. It is infinite. And if you've noticed areas of your life where conditions may need to be upgraded in some way for your own safety and thriving, know that you can do this. You have support. Just bringing gratitude to this moment, Gratitude to all of life supporting you. The sun, the rain, the earth, all the unconditional love that exists so deeply around you in your life. Offering gratitude, breathing it in, receiving it for yourself. And breathing it out, offering that same love, unconditional and conditional in its healthy form, to all beings throughout the world. May all beings find wholeness. May all beings without exception find peace and happiness and freedom from suffering. Breathing this in for yourself and breathing this out for the world. And as you feel ready, just gently opening your eyes, coming back into the space. Grounding back into this present moment. Thank you for joining me in this creation circle. I hope it has expanded your own heart for the ability to hold both gifts of unconditional love and conditional love with more spaciousness in your life. And I know sometimes exploring something like this can surface a lot of our own judgments and maybe reveal what our own experiences have been. Sometimes that's a lot to be able to notice as we come up. And something I like to offer those who attend my creation circle is an opportunity to be supported. If there has been things that come up for you, I offer a couple of complimentary sessions a month to those in my community. You can find that on brookesnow.com. On the one-on-one coaching page. I'll leave a link to it here in the show notes. And if that feels like it would be supportive to you, or if looking into the benefits of having a coaching package and working together to learn how to take this from theory to practice, how can you live more from a place that's honoring the conditions that you need for growth and thriving in your life, as well as being able to continually be sourced from that place of unconditional love that is always within you. If that is of interest to you, please check that out. In the meantime, the light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.